Good morning, Jonathan here with another YouTube video. Today we're looking at books, publishers, authors, anything literature related. A lot of self-help and non-fiction and a few novels and a bit of fiction mixed in with it. So we're here at Big Tree, Harare. This cool early spring morning, and we're on my Samsung Galaxy Tab A8 tablet, and we got Moon Plus Reader Pro, an app for ebooks, which we'll walk you through. And I've got some favorites, best of the Air Signs Booklist, which we'll scan through quickly, and then we'll go into more depth on cover to cover, which are books that contains much more of the ones I've actually read from cover to cover. Top of the world we'll leave for next time. Those are all related to Zen, Buddhism, meditation, all that sort of thing. It's just a search query on that. The top of the world representing the Himalayas. So, best of the Air Signs Booklist. We'll just scan quickly through it, anything that pops out, practicing mindfulness, and they're not in any particular order, although it's generally in alphabetical order. Classical music, 30 seconds classical music, 30 seconds quantum theory. I think I did the 30 seconds psychology. I read from cover to cover. The 100 things we've lost to the internet. Yeah. 1491 as opposed to 1492, Charles C. Mann. New revelations of the Americas before Columbus. Graham Hancock. The runes. Gnostic and Gnosticism. A little of what you fancy, H.E. Bates. A walk through the forest of souls. I've read a bit of Rachel Pollack's. I think it's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, if I'm not mistaken. A bit of rock climbing there. Elf. The Sacred River Ran in Caverns Measureless to Man. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Bit of Paulo Coelho. I've read a number of his books, actually, as I have with Graham Hancock. Ian McEwan. First Love, Last Rites. Some Zimbabwean literature, African literature and elegy for Easterly, Bettina Gappa. Anatomy and Physiology, back to school, folks. It's Caroline Mace. Astrology, endless astrology. Ayurveda. Interesting recipes in that. Bagels, Bump and Buses, on the top of my reading list. I'm really looking forward to it. Be Free, Africa. Angela de Jong. Birds of Africa. Standard reference from Chamberlain, is it? Beyond Ayahuasca. Unlocking the evolutionary science of indigenous Amazonian wisdom to access your highest potential. Chakras, Cezanne, Bill Bryson, composting techniques, Canada, and DK Eyewitness Guides, South Africa. See a table, I think that's a lion's head, gets in there. Cape Town. The history of astrology. That's what happens when you open a book. Love what you eat, what you love what you eat. Eats, Shoots and Leaves. Lynn Truss, a book, Zero Tolerance Approach to Punctuation. I'm yet to read that one. It looks great. Enneagram, Herbal Medicine, Enchanted Plants, Treasury of Botanical Folklore and Magic, Birds of Greater Southern Africa, Helm Field Guide, Gardening for Butterflies, Gestalt Therapy, Ginger, the actual root ginger. A book all about it. Great paintings, compost again. Goodbye Things, whiskey. House of Stone, Shuma something. Novuyo Rosa Shuma, Zimbabwean author, I think. How Dogs Love Us, fascinating works. Philip Ball came into my life a few weeks ago, and it's fascinating to think about reading that one. Wayne Dyer has been on the bookshelf for so long, I can't remember. How to Read and Interpret a Birth Chart. Guideposts for Understanding Natal Astrology by Laurie Farmington. If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him. Sheldon B. Kopp. The Pilgrimage of Psychotherapy Patients. Incognito, David Eagleman. The Secret Lives of the Brain. Harare, Alcatraz. It's All Magic. Stephen King, by my namesake, Jonathan Eig. King, The Life of Martin Luther King. Leonard Cohen, Life Skills for Teens, Must-Reads for the Youngsters. Mantras, Bob Dylan's Lyrics. Anthony William, Celery Juice. Get the Right Diet. Meditations on the Trail, looks like a wonderful volume. Christopher Eyes. Colleen Barrett Reed, Messages from Spirit. The Extraordinary Power of Oracles, Omens and Signs. Naked Lunch, William S. Burroughs. There's a film called Queer, came out last year, based on William S. Burroughs. That's what made me look up that one. Complete Wellness and Mental Wellness. Neuro-Wisdom. Jung and Tarot, An Archetypal Journey. No Self, No Problem. Of Mice and Men. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovic, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. We're almost halfway through the Air Signs Booklist. Places of Stone. Permaculture for Beginners. Psych by Paul Bloom. Quiet. The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. Susan Cain. By chance, someone gave a copy to me the other day. Richard Dawkins, The God Delusion. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. Nancy Drew, Alexander Fuller, Scribbling the Cat, Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight. Shodo looks interesting. 7 Brief Lessons on Physics by Carlo Raveni. 6 Thinking Hats. We certainly need 6 thinking hats in this situation. Bono, there's an excellent performance by Bono. Bono, Stories of Surrender, as opposed to Songs of Surrender. Tarot in the Spirit of Zen. African Mythology. The Body by Bill Bryson, probably an essential read. The Book of Minds, another Philip Ball there. Book Lovers Library. So yeah, it all goes in circles. The Crow Flies Backwards and other new Zen koans. The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. The Ecology Book, another DK popular publisher. The Examined Life, Everything Art Handbook. The Essence of Reiki. Pat Barker, The Eye in the Door. I've read the first one of the trilogy, The Regeneration. I haven't gone back to it after that one. And The Healing Foods Cookbook. Hidden Messages in Water. The History of the White House, Power Struggles, Scandals, and Defining Moments. Kari Mead. The Immune System Recovery Plan. A bit of channeled material by Jane Roberts. The Jazz of Physics. fascinating titles. And that's what I wanted to try and say, is reading a book by its cover. That's what we're doing here, is we're reading a book by its cover. The Philosophy of Modern Song by Bob Dylan. Again, the Wayne Dyer pops up there. The Spontaneous Healing of Belief by Greg Braden. He's been around on the scene for so long, I can't remember. Oh, we skipped a few. Therapy. The Zodiac Year. Another Alexander Fuller. Nepal Himalaya. So we have up on top of the world. Where were we? Somewhere there. The Anxious Generation. The Aquarian Shaman. Yeah, we were somewhere there. The Folklore of Birds. Yeah. Sometimes it skips. I just wanted to show you on top of the world there, as in reference to the Nepal Himalaya, trekking in the Nepal Himalaya, the Ultimate IQ book, test book, Van Gogh, Wetlands, Wild Wisdom, Zen Masters, Mountain Monks and Rebellious Eccentrics. Reflect on the healing power of nature. I can hardly read it at that size. Yellow Face. Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. Your Chakra Personality. Your Brain, the Missing Manual. Your Birthday, Zen for Kids. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Zen on the Trail. 0 to 1. Applying Psychology to Everyday Life. So that completes our quick run through Best of the Air Signs Booklist, and next we'll go on to cover. I'm going to pause the video there, and we've done Best of the Air Signs Booklist, a quick review, one to cover. The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, age 13 3/4. I read that back in the day, believe it or not. 4,000 questions, 50 spiritual classics, 500 plus dark web links, 1,000 record covers. If it doesn't say it on the cover, it never will. 1984, 2001, A Space Odyssey, 2024 Guide to the Night Sky, Impressionism. So, 1984 is a curious one because of the so-called police state of the New World Order. All that sort of conspiracy gunk gets through. Shona, Beginner's Guide, Mangwanani, Marase, Mascati, Maneru, Raramushe, Swallows and Amazons, A Bend in the River, V.S. Naipaul, Twisting 2,000-year-old words to celebrate 60 years of the steamer from the capital, to quote V.S. Naipaul as far as I know. India, A Wounded Civilization. Framework for Excellence, a resource manual for NLP. A Genius in the Family, cover to cover. A Time to Die, on my reading list. Agartha, cover to cover. I actually still smoke, but I'm going to read Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking for a second time shortly. American English Pronunciation. Introduction to Poetry. That was a set book on it was our reference book on Cambridge A-level English back in 1997 to 8. George Orwell, Animal Farm. Anna Karenina, I really must get round to reading that one. Archangels and Ascended Masters. The guides are certainly with us today. Around the World in 80 Days, Jules Verne. What did we see that was about Jules Verne? It was Journey to the Center of the Earth. I actually read that in junior school. Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable. What a wonderful volume. I had a hard copy and I gave it away. I still regret that choice. Book Design Made Simple. It's got me through all my publishing. It's an amazing volume if you use Adobe InDesign. I've got 3/4 of the way through that book. I must finish it sometime. Brave New World I've read from cover to cover, but I did so 30 years ago. I need to reread it. By the River Piedra I sat down and wept. You might say by the River Zambezi I sat down and wept. Campbell Biology, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. We'll come to the Gulag Archipelago, Volume 1, 2, and 3, which I've read from cover to cover. That's why the Cancer Awards on my reading list there. Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee came into my life in the last few years, and I've read the first chapter. Hard Times, cover to cover. Core Approaches in Counseling and Psychotherapy, I've read from cover to cover. The CI World Fact Book, I dipped into the chapter on Zimbabwe. Mind your language. Phoenix, The Therapeutic Patterns of Milton H. Erickson, Dinner with Mugabe. That's quite a story, actually. Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. I've read a number of Douglas Adams. I'm going for reading the complete Douglas Adams. Disgrace, J.M. Coetzee, cover to cover. I've dipped into Washington, D.C. from Eyewitness DK. I've got an atlas. Do Android Dream of Electric Sheep? There's a brilliant television series based on the book by Philip K. Dick. And it's fantastic. It's a bit like Black Mirror. Don Quixote, there was an art exhibition a few years ago in Harare based on the theme of Don Quixote, chasing windmills. June, isn't that a fabulous new film series that's out at the moment, Frank Herbert? Eastern Body, Western Mind by Anna Dear Judith, I read from cover to cover. 11 Minutes, Paulo Coelho, from cover to cover. Looking Forward to Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. Can't quite see this one, but it actually says Entering the Circle. Olga Karetidi. And it's about a psychiatrist who gets involved with shamanism in the Altai Mountains in Asia. Essential Poems from the Staying Alive trilogy, edited by Neil Ashley. I've read from cover to cover. Excuse me, your life is waiting. And my life is indeed waiting. Far from the Madding Crowd, it was a set book for our O-level. Snakes, we have to beware of snakes in the garden here. Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. I must get round to reading it. Forward the Foundation. So Isaac Asimov's Foundation has recently been made into a wonderful television series called Foundation. Highly recommended it. We're in the middle of season 3. Foundation and Earth, Second Foundation, Foundation and Empire, Forward Foundation, Foundation's Edge, and etc. Freemasonry for beginners, don't go there. Freedom wherever we go, Thich Nhat Hanh. I've read Glory by No Violet Bulawayo from cover to cover. Medical Mafia came through David Icke's work, bibliography, I mean, a slight pause to my thinking. God's Blueprint by Christopher Knight is absolutely brilliant. I highly recommend it, and his other one about Who Built the Moon, excellent read. Gold Counseling, if you're keen on getting another tool in your toolbox, Psychotherapists. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I read most of it at school. I must get around to finishing it. Jonathan Swift, My Namesake, Gulliver's Travels. Half of a Yellow Sun. And just a note that there is a Gulliver's, Lake Gulliver's in Nyanga. and in the national park there, I think. We used to go there on holidays as kids. Hamlet's Mill. This is needs to be read thoroughly by Giorgio de Santillana and Hertha Foundation, an essay investigating the origins of human knowledge and its transmission through time. Hamlet and Hard Times. I haven't read the Spark Notes, but I've read the actual books from cover to cover. Philip Pullman, his Dark Materials trilogy. Again, Douglas Adams, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've read all 5 of the trilogy. Hypnotizing Maria. Again, a Bridge Across Forever. Margaret Craven, I Heard the Owl Call My Name. I've just read that recently and enjoyed it. In Therapy, again, a 2025 read of mine. On my bookshelf, on my reading list, Immune and Ikigai. Coffee, the World Atlas of Coffee. Just So Stories we used to read as kids. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, again my namesake, by Richard Bach there. An old version of Brewers. Learning the Vi and Vim editors. Now we're getting into computer science and markup languages, and again look at Book Design Made Simple that came through earlier. Life, the Universe and Everything. Life of Pi, I've read most of it. Watched the film as well. Like Sodium and Water, long story cut short. Like the Flowing River, Little House on the Prairie. All the Middle-earth books, J.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, I've read from cover to cover. Just started Love's Executioner, wonderful dip into psychotherapy. Meetings with Remarkable Men. The G.I. Gurdjieff goes hand in hand with the Carl Jung in some way. Mein Kampf, Be Warned. Middlemarch. I'm actually reading that at the moment, George Eliot. I read The Mill on the Floss for A-level English. Mukiwa, I mean. Peter Godwin, I recently read that. Salman Rushdie, Midnight Children, I've been meaning to read forever and a day, and recently got round to reading the first 3 chapters. The Non-Designer's Design Book. Nothing in this book is true, but it's exactly how things are. Bob Frissell telling it like it is. Dr. Phil. Nothing Special. Living Zen. Charlotte Yoko Beck. Very interesting David E. Ewald of Dice and Men as opposed to of Mice and Men. Dungeons and Dragons Lore. I've just finished reading and are completely blown away by One in a Millennial by Kate Kennedy. Get onto her podcast, Be There in 5. 100 Years of Solitude. I read the other Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Love in the Time of Cholera. Read most of it, in fact. Overcoming Addictions. Again, Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. I've kicked a number of addictions in my life. Pain-free, Vygotsky method, coming via a Facebook workshop by Tony Robbins. He recommended the Vygotsky method. That was about 2 years ago. Persuasion Engineering. There's also an audio version of it, which is really worthwhile as well. Post-Impressionism, Post-War, History of Europe since 1945. Primal Healing, another prelude to the Foundation by Asimov. Basic Portuguese for our Brazilian and Portuguese friends, and we can put a good query on the Mozambique on that. Psychology, 6th edition, I've read from cover to cover. Again, The Quiet comes up. Pat Barker, Regeneration, cover to cover. I've read a number of Caroline Myss's books and audio programs. Birds of Southern Africa, a stalwart on the bookshelf. Sea of Tranquility, cover to cover, Emily St. John Mandel. Sophie's World, I read many years ago. I'm looking forward to revisiting it. Shona Companion. Supernature, Lyle Watson, very popular book back in the day. Table Mountain Walks. Taming the Tiger, Tibetan Teachings for Improving Daily Life. How are we getting on? The Flower of Life, Volumes 1 and 2. Walter Foster Publishers, Art of Acrylic Painting, Art of Oil Painting, Art of Pastel Painting. Art of Oil Painting I've read and practiced from cover to cover. The book about everything, 18 artists, writers and thinkers on James Joyce's Ulysses. I actually read Ulysses, listened along with the audio book a couple of years ago, quite recently actually, and I just picked up this one to think through it a bit. Catcher in the Rye, it's a long story, yeah. But anyway, J.D. Salinger, I've read the first 10 chapters there. Cure for All Diseases, The Couple Who Became Each Other, psychotherapy books. The Dust Diaries, haven't read it yet, but it should be good. Dead Hand, I've read from cover to cover, as I have a number of David Icke books. I can't even remember whether I've read The Whole Dream. The Examined Life, the English novel by Walter Allen, I've read from cover to cover. Salman Rushdie again. The God of Small Things. And the Pat Barker last book in the trilogy, The Ghost Road. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I highly recommend reading the Gulag Archipelago from cover to cover. It's so rewarding in the fullness of time. The Harare Hairdresser on the top of my book list. The Hiram Key by Christopher Knight and Robert Lomas, I've read from cover to cover. Human Cosmos, I'm reading it at the moment. The Joke is a long story, Chamani Mani. Milan Kundera, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. The Kite Runner, forever thinking about reading it. Just started Bill Bryson's The Lost Continent. Read John Grisham, The Last Juror, and The King of Torts from cover to cover. There's The Mill on the Floss. A miscellany, the Mashonaland Irish Association. Looks interesting. Master Practitioner Manual, the Norton Anthology to Poetry, I've actually got a hard copy. The Periodic Table, The Paintings That Revolutionized Art. Bob Dylan deserves a mention. The Philosophy of Modern Song, I've read the first couple of songs on that. Bryce Courtney, The Power of One, they made that into a movie. The Primal Scream, psychotherapy books and therapy, self-help to some extent back in the day. So what we talk about is the procrastination equation. The Salmon of Doubt, a Roald Dahl Chesney. Again, where we started, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4 by Sue Townsend. We're getting there, almost finished. The Simulation Hypothesis, an awesome book. I must check that I've actually read it. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. James Redfield, I read the whole Redfield. I read the whole Celestine Prophecy series. Social Skills Guidebook, we certainly need more of that. Again, Colette Barron Reed's the Spirit Animal Oracle is. I've got the actual pack of oracle cards. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The Star Trek book, Star Trek Encyclopedia. I'm going for gold and watching every single Star Trek episode, and I've got about 80% of the way there. Star Wars book. I'm doing pretty well with Andor and the Mandalorian. The Story of Buddha. The 10th Insight from the Celestine Prophecy. And A Times Atlas. There's the unbearable lightness of being Milan Kundera. The Wind in the Willows, The White Hotel by D.M. Thomas, from cover to cover. Starting my journey of nicotine recovery with the Zen way of recovery. The Atlas of the Moon, timeline therapy. Tradition and dream following on from the English novel. Transforming Your Dragons, a good place to start on this list. How to turn fear patterns into personal power. Almost done. Wetlands, Wednesday's Indigo Blue, Who Built the Moon, Christopher Knight, Who Moved My Cheese, Wilding, Isabel Tree, Big Tree Harare, Written in the Stars, I've read from cover to cover, Alison Davies. Zimbalicious, Poetry Anthology, Volumes 1, 2, and 3. I've read the first couple of poems of that. So, what are you going to choose? The War and Ivermectin. War and Peace. This one looks good. Sam Harris waking up. Anyway, Veronica decides to die. Undeniable. Ulysses by James Joyce. Ulysses by James Joyce. A Day in the Life of James Joyce. A Day in the Life of Harold Bloom. Was it Stephen Dedalus? We've been there, done that. Tom Gunn. Things Fall Apart. The Snow Goose I read recently. I'll leave you with The Snow Goose. A simple read for the kids as well. Signing off. So you got your puffins and penguins, got enough Irish to sink the Titanic, and please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Cover to cover, narrated and presented and collected by Jonathan N. Wakeling.